I'm James Schillinglaw for Virtual Luxury Expo, and this is part 2 of our interview with the leaders of Valerie Wilson Travel. And I'll introduce them again. First, from my far left, we have Kimberly Wilson-Weddy. And then we have Valerie Wilson herself. I said that right?
You did, that's great.
Okay. And last but not least, Jennifer Wilson-Boudiger.
Perfect.
I got it right the first time, I tell you. Now, and all of you, you're somehow related, I think, right? Now,
I'm the matriarch.
You're the matriarch. Not many people will admit to that.
Very proud of it. We joke about it. My grandchildren even.
In our first segment, we talked a little bit about how you formed the agency and how you've grown it and how you divide your responsibilities, and also how it is to develop a family business. In this segment, I think we'd like to talk a little bit about luxury travel, which you are very focused on, even in the sense of your corporate business. I think is more of an upscale corporate business. Now, Valerie, 30 years ago when you formed this agency, obviously luxury travel was, I think it was different. I mean, has it changed that much since you started?
Very much so. First of all, the word luxury really didn't exist. There was deluxe, there was superior, there might be the word premium, but luxury had not become part of the vocabulary of travel. The fact that in most cases,
which is odd because now it's almost
overused, and you have to watch what it really means today in defining luxury or trying to define luxury. Our company's 30 years old, and if you put a perspective on it, yes, Four Seasons is today 50 years old, but they had just 40 years ago started in London with the Inn on the Park, now Four Seasons London at Park Lane. There was no such company as Ritz-Carlton until about 3 years after I'd started in business, 81, so I think they were 84 or 85. So when you think of standards of setting luxury, it really was an independent hotel, Royal Viking Line on the cruise side of it, and it was a very smaller playing field than it is today. Instead, it has grown in to the strongest segment, in my opinion, on travel.
Absolutely. Now, Kim and Jennifer, what were your perceptions back when, even before you, I mean, you obviously traveled with your mom and you had experienced some very nice places, but what was your perception of what luxury was back then and how it's changed today?
We were so fortunate to be able to travel in the 70s, 80s, together still in the 90s and today. But if I think back to the late 70s, as Val was percolating this idea of starting a company, and then as she started it, to me there were two guides. It was the Raleigh Chateau Guide and it was Leading Hotels of the World. And Kimberly and I had the fortunate opportunity of going through those directories to say, have we been there, have we not been there, should we possibly go there, even though Valerie was obviously going to make that decision of where we were going as a family. Today in the marketplace there are so many new entrants, so many companies that didn't exist, and so much more of a vetting process, which in our example of being a proud member of Virtuoso, best of the best, has not replaced those two, but has taken it a step above. So I think there's so much more luxury in the marketplace.
Absolutely. And Kim?
I also think there's been so much additional wealth developed over the last 30 years. So what was perceived luxury back when the agency started versus today, I think that's spread between the ultra wealthy, that really elite traveler versus sort of the one who aspires to it versus sort of that premium customer. That gap has gotten so much bigger. So I think how we communicate and what we think about, so this blossoming in that luxury space has just grown. I mean, cruising, when you look at Seabourn, Regent wasn't there, Crystal wasn't there, that's all sort of evolved. And then you look at the hotel chains and the boutique ones that have come into it. But I think it's how the consumer gets the information and shares the information. Family travel used to be a little bit more private, and you talk about it occasionally amongst friends. Now you blog it, you put it on your Facebook page, it's the websites. I mean, there's just the way we think about it and live it and breathe it is just radically different.
No, absolutely. And in fact, you mentioned the hotels and resorts, and there's been an explosion in upscale and luxury. And in fact, Valerie, you've actually decided to really focus in on that, to the point where you talked about some of the guides you use. You actually felt you had to go out and do your own guide.
I'm passionate about hotels, and I often call myself a frustrated hotelier. And I had written a book 10 years ago, which was to come out just after 9/11. Well, 9/11 changed the world for many of us, including me, because I had a heart attack and bypass surgery. So in '02, trying to launch a book about travel was still tough to do. I wasn't sure I wanted to do it again until I sat down and went through the first edition, and of the 289 original hotels in it, more than a third were slashed before I ever started. And that's when I said, you know, I think I better do a second book. And I'm going to narrow it down to my 400 favorite around the world.
I love how we narrow it down to 400. That in itself, to say that,
Yeah.
to narrow it down to
Which you might not
400
have been
luxury
able to say
hotels.
30 years ago, right?
30 years ago, I don't think you could even probably say there were 100 around the world,
Right.
if that. And so I'm really proud that the book has come out, and you'll see it in the background there. It's a wonderful feeling of telling my story about each property and what I think about it and why I think what I do about it. But that goes back to being a frustrated hotelier. So I'm never afraid to tell a hotel what I think they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. Had you thought about changing that? And if nothing else, they all know that if there are 2 sinks, you've got to have 2 of everything, including 2 wastebaskets.
Absolutely, and something tells me that the general managers of those hotels
Many of them are
might
listening.
take your advice. Yes.
Many of them are listening.
Now the explosion of product is amazing. I mean, it sort of goes to the reason of why we need travel agents. I think is there's so much choice in the market. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. I mean, how can you distinguish for your clients, whether they're corporate or family or whatever, what kind of resort, what kind of hotel to choose?
I actually would pick it up probably first on the corporate and business travel side, and then meetings and incentives. I think once you know what the customer's looking for, are they looking for cost savings? Are they looking for value-added amenities? Are they looking for location or security? There are so many more options today, and in many times, most of our corporate business is unmanaged, and in the size and scale between $500,000 up to $10 million. So that's a wide range, but we have lots of very valued accounts that have been with us, often for 20, 30 years. They come to us for that knowledge to say, is that new hotel that just opened the place that I should be? Or should I stay with a property that you know? Or do you know the general manager there? Do you know the director of sales there? Is there the right program or product? I would say that same level works with airlines. Unfortunately, on the domestic side, it's a little bit of a commodity. On the international side, there are soft dollar programs. 70% of all of our business travelers fly in full coach, full business, or full first still. So there is that premium product in the marketplace, and our customers want to know, have we seen it, have we used it, have we tested it? And the only other segue that I would use on meetings and incentives, they look for us not only to source, be on site, not take for granted that we use the same property year after year, even if we're doing the same program. They want us to come to them with suggestions and ideas. They truly use us as an advisor.
Absolutely. And is the same go for the leisure side of the business, would you say?
Without a doubt. I mean, I think it's where you can really differentiate yourself is the knowledge that we all have, the ability to share. So internally within Valerie Wilson Travel, we have an advisor who's on the road daily, and we share that information. And it's that sense of community of understanding what places you've vetted out and really being able to, in a very articulate manner, be able to say what works and what doesn't work, because you have to understand what your customer is looking for, because otherwise you're going to match them up with the wrong experience. And time is so precious that if you're putting their precious leisure time, family time, couple time, friend time, or just simply me time in the wrong property or the wrong cruise line or on the wrong tour program, you could have the potential to ruin a customer for life. So it's so critical to really do your research and understand and vet it out to be able to talk firsthand knowledge.
Well, let's talk a little bit about those customers. Valerie, how do you think they've changed over the past 30 years? I mean,
I think the customer is pretty much the same. They just are more aware,
Right.
and they're more connected.
they have more information.
They have more information. And I think what I would add into what Jennifer and Kimberly are talking about is that you have to ask the important questions of your customer. I'm very lucky. Many of my customers have been my personal customers for 30 years, 25 years. And so I always let's talk about the 5-year plan. It may have started with a family vacation or a weekend somewhere. I want you to dream. I want you to think about those experiences. I'm your dream advisor, your travel advisor. Let me do the same thing that your financial advisor does for you. Put together all of the things in your wish list. I never use the phrase bucket list. To me, it's a wish list. And let's work at how we use it with the family, by ourselves, with a spouse or a friend or a dear friend, whatever it is, because it's going to be different for each person.
Sure, absolutely.
No customer's the same, really.
And
They're all similar, but they're not the same.
And Jennifer, from the corporate side, have you seen a different kind of customer in the past few years, or the same one? or-
I think they still expect knowledge and
Mhm.
expertise from us, but I think the one or two other things that they're really looking for right now are cost savings and security. With all the man-made and natural disasters going on, they want to know that they're using an advisor, part of VWT, that can get them in or get them out of a place.
Sure.
So I would say that is one thing that has definitely changed in the last few years.
And a lot of times we're using the word experience now with associated. It seems to have been the buzzword for a few years now. Tell me a little bit about what, Kim, I'll start with you, what you think is a luxury travel experience today.
I think it's unique to that person and what they want. So my version of a wow moment could be very different than Jennifer's or Valerie's. And so I think it's understanding and really being able to listen to your customer about what they want. One of the things I do with family travel, I'm a huge believer that everybody gets a voice. So, come age 5 or 6, even the child gets to say, one day I want to see the baby sea turtles, or I want to go to a cooking class. And so everybody gets a voice. So everybody within that trip has one special moment that they know is very unique to what is of interest to them. And I think that becomes really important. And that experience is one of the reasons why Valerie Wilson Travel came up with our tagline a few years ago of the power of access. It's that ability to open up doors and create these once-in-a-lifetime experiences that are unique to you of what you're looking to do. And we're able to deliver that and really excel and exceed those expectations.
Valerie, Jennifer, any other ideas on the experience of luxury? What is that?
I still love sharing an actual experience with a customer. So if somebody is going to Cambodia, I want to talk about the private helicopter up into northern Cambodia, landing in a village where they rarely have seen Westerners, go into a temple that is still so quiet that you hear no sound around you, and you ask the guide as you're climbing through this 10th century temple, why? And he says, I would say, there's no monkeys, no animals. And he'll say, it was because of Vietnam. It's an experience that you'll never forget in your life.
So relating stories.
Relating stories, telling it into today from past times.
I guess my last question for this segment is going to be, what can you tell other travel agents who are interested in getting into the upscale segment about maybe some of this? I know you don't maybe not need the competition, but how can they really succeed in the upscale segment? And Jennifer, maybe.
I would say there's plenty of business out there for all of us, so
Right.
competition I think is a good thing, even though there's been consolidation. I think being trustful and truthful with your customer makes them not want to go and shop and look around. You build a bond and a relationship that someone knows what your preferred preferences are. And we are then able to match them up with our preferred partners. And then you start to have a win-win. You're not starting over. We don't operate any call centers. Every client is handled in a team of 1 or 2 people that know their name, know their children's name, know their corporate policy on any side of the business. So it's building that trust.
Absolutely. And Kim, what are your thoughts on that?
I think 2 probably words of advice or wisdom that I'd probably say is you need to create time in every day for training and then for your marketing. How are you going to market yourself out there? How do you get your new customer list? Is it going to be on repeat or referral? And then training, what do you want to specialize in? Spending a little bit of time every day about the product that's out there, because there's so much information out there. And if you don't know something, it's okay to say to your customer, I haven't been there. So always be truthful, which was a great word choice by Jennifer.
Yeah. And I'll end with you, Val.
I would agree with everything that Jennifer and Kimberly said, and I think I would say you don't have to be all things to all people. Decide what you really want to share. Find the means and the ability to research it, read it, go see it on your own if you can, but never, never not tell the truth.
Absolutely. Well, on that very good advice, we'll close. I want to thank you for taking the time, and it was fascinating to learn more about how you operate as a business and what you think of luxury travel. I'm James Schillinglaw for Virtual Luxury Expo.